Thank you, Kevin.
Thanks, Beth. Good evening, and thank you all for attending tonight's candidates forum. My name is Kevin McChrystal, and I am running for re-election to the Heritage Pines Board of Directors. As a current board member, I was pleased to hear at the last candidate forum that most candidates acknowledged the recent improvements to the association's clubhouse and amenities. Most candidates seemed happy with the direction the association is taking and moving forward. That sentiment reflects positively on the work done by this current board, prior boards and committees, working closely with the general manager and his staff. When I first joined the board, the issues facing the association included the following. The association had a budget deficit of $80,000 in 2008. It had an underfunded reserve claim. That means the association was not collecting enough money to pay its future financial obligations. The association was in a lawsuit with Lennar. That lawsuit was eating up a lot of the association's cash and payments to attorneys and others without any assurance that we would get all that money back. The clubhouse was in need of significant maintenance and repairs. However, no major repair projects have been undertaken. Over the last 2.5 years, the association turned the $80,000 budget deficit in 2008 into a $200,000 surplus in 2009 and a $300,000 surplus in 2010. The reserve fund that was underfunded in 2008 was fully funded in 2010. The lawsuit with Lennar was finalized. The board voted unanimously to accept the final offer from Lennar. The board concluded the risk-reward ratio continuing the negotiations were clearly not the association's favor. The much-needed repair work on the clubhouse has begun. In addition, the current board listened to residents when residents indicated they wanted a bigger and better bar. They wanted an expanded fitness center with new fitness center equipment. They wanted restrooms down at the northern end of the clubhouse, and they wanted a larger kitchen. The new bar and the expanded fitness center have already been completed and have been extremely well received and supported by residents. The restrooms are being constructed now, and the larger kitchen is in the planning stage for either this year or next year. All of this occurred with no increase in assessments for 2011. Notwithstanding the progress made over the last few years, the association continues to face significant operational inefficiencies that need to be improved in order to keep future assessment levels at a minimum. At least one member of the future board should have a firm knowledge, understanding, and business experience in dealing with accounting and financial issues. I hope to continue to fill that role with the association's board for the next 2 years. In concluding, I just want to thank my wife, Luann, for all the time that she spends doing other things around the house while I'm working on the association duties. So, Luann, thank you. We've been married 34 years, have 4 children and 7 grandchildren. Thank you all again.
Thank you. Kevin, this question is for you. Describe your understanding of how a community association works.
Well, clearly, as you mentioned, we've got the bylaws and the amendments, rules and regulations that we all need to follow. To understand we are in a deed-restricted community, so we have architectural review provisions that we need to abide by. But aside from all of those rules and regulations that we need to abide by, my sense of the community is to try and get as many people in the community using the amenities that we have here. And I think, quite honestly, so far, we've done a pretty good job of that. Adding the new bar certainly helped a lot. That got people up here. The fitness center got people up here. The sense of community, in my mind, is, as I say, the food and beverage operations, which I think are excellent, the trivia nights, the name that tune nights, the karaoke nights, the opportunity to come up and meet your friends and neighbors and do it as often as you like. Or not to do it, if that's how you so choose. But I think, to me, that builds the camaraderie among people. And I must admit, my sense of talking with the people is that they are extremely satisfied living here. And once again, I think that's a reflection certainly on the general manager, his staff, and all the committees, all the volunteers. And we held a special night for them the other day, last week or so. But I think all of that is tantamount to a community organization that is cohesive and is unified.
Thank you, Kevin. Kevin? What are the 3 top things that you would want to accomplish as a new board member?
I think probably number 1 would be, we have other plans right now to do the expansion of the kitchen. So either that would get done this year or next year, depending upon the accessibility of the funds. And so we'd have to work to make sure that either we gain the funds this year, which would allow us to do it, or to plan accordingly next year to generate enough internal funds for that expansion. The second thing, as I mentioned in my presentation, we've got significant operational inefficiencies that need to be improved. I think we need to get working on that sooner rather than later, which would help, quite honestly, if we can make some improvements in that area. That will also generate additional funds to allow us to do other things. And then I guess the third thing is just to make sure that our operations overall are as efficient as possible. My goal is always to make sure we've got operations, as I mentioned, as efficient as possible. And so that only when we do that do we consider an assessment increase. I would be against any assessment increase where I feel that there are ways to generate that money internally without going to the resident's pocketbook or wallet.
Thank you. Kevin? What is your position on changing the rules and regulations to allow pet walking on the grassy areas between the sidewalk and paved surfaces of all streets in Heritage Pines?
Well, I guess my sense is, we talked about getting residents involved in various activities and decision making. My sense is much the same as we did with the opening up the clubhouse utilization to a committee, letting them decide. My sense is if there's a need perceived by residents for larger areas or more areas for dog walking, that we address that through a committee to look into it, have them come up with recommendations to the board and take it from there. So again, that committee would have to be made up, obviously, of all types of diverse backgrounds. Trying to get that committee as diverse as possible and see if we can come up with some solutions that are sort of win-win for everybody.
Thank you, Kevin. Thank you, Jay. Kevin?
Yeah, I mean, clearly my strengths are finance, accounting related. I've worked for Coopers and Lybrand, which are now PricewaterhouseCoopers, once I graduated college. Got my CPA with them. Was involved in auditing many Fortune 500 companies. Got involved with all sorts of managers, sales, marketing, production, accounting. One of my clients was Dow Jones and Company. While I worked at the CPA firm, they made an offer to me, so I sort of just switched hats. Went to work at Dow Jones, did the same type of thing. In many cases, I sat, not from association, but on an operating line position, I sat Bill's gut. So I appreciate what he has to go through, particularly in an association like ours with some 2,200 residents. And so, yeah, I mean, taking a look at it, if you look back in 2008, we had an expense level budget of $4.2 million. We're down now to $3.8 million. So it's those types of things. Get asked about increasing revenues, and those are things we're constantly looking at as the ways we can, again, try and increase revenue or reduce expenses so that we can not tap into the assessments and only do that at the last resort. And I think that's what the strength I bring to this board. Oftentimes, with a particular project, my minute's not here, but with projects, there are times where, quite honestly, you've got to lead and bring everybody along with you to get things done. And I think that's a strength of mine as well, is to provide certainly support to Anil, who is the president of the board, support to Bill. I feel very strong in a supportive situation, especially, like I say, understanding what he needs to go through. I've been there before. So those are the strengths. Weaknesses purchases, you know, obviously I spent two...
Hey, Kevin, thank you.